About 2 years ago, I was long-distance dating a guy who was my first love. He loved me too, but unfortunately due to the long distance and his addiction problems, we had to break it off. As most people react when their first love and relationship ends, they enter weeks of depression or denial. I had trouble sleeping for at least a month. This caused me to be late to work almost every day, and as a result, I received a warning that if I didn't fix my attendance issue, then I would be let go. I immediately forced myself to try and occupy my time with my freelance illustration and really attempted to go to bed early. The first couple of days, it was rough, but I kept at it. The first night I remember getting work done and sleeping on time was the night it happened. Quick backstory. My roommate and I live in a house separated into 2 separate living spaces. One for our friends that rented the upstairs, and one for us downstairs. I figured I should mention this because our windows, for example, were very easily accessible and unfortunately didn't have locks. We also had a backyard that was fenced off, but like the windows, the fenced door was also lock-free. Now to what happened. I was asleep, but due to being a light sleeper and being incredibly heartbroken, I easily awoke to lights coming through the blinds of my bedroom window. Luckily, my bed was adjacent to the window, so they didn't see me. I was still a little foggy from being sleep-deprived, and because of the melatonin, but forced myself up when whispering voices came from the people holding the flashlights. The people, there were at least 3 of them. It was all such a blur that I can't really remember that detail. Were wearing all black and began moving towards the fence of our backyard. I immediately began to feel so emotional at being woken up. My body went into autopilot. I grabbed my phone and box cutter. I worked at Trader Joe's, where we have to use them every day, and woke my roommate up. I dialed 911 and handed him the phone to tell the police people were attempting to break in. My amazing roommate seemed to understand immediately, despite being shaken awake. I pounded my way to the kitchen, where we had a huge window looking into the backyard, and my adrenaline pumped as I saw the strangers make their way through the fence, their flashlights bobbing around. It was this moment that triggered me into a fit of tears. Not the cute, one drop going down my cheek kind, but the type where rivers of tears came down my face, making it difficult for me to see. I mean, my boyfriend, who I loved, left me. I hadn't been able to sleep. The job I love is threatening to fire me. And now these assholes woke me up and are trying to take what little we have. They began to look through our backyard shed, which, like an idiot, we haven't attached a padlock to. Inside was the bike that my dad bought for me, the bikes of our friends who lived upstairs, old TVs, etc. One of the intruders made their way to our back door, when in a fit of tears and anger, I beat him to it. I flicked our kitchen lights on and swung open the door. The stranger was right in front of me and jumped backwards. I mean, to be fair, I was holding an incredibly sharp extended box cutter and was crying really badly. I started yelling at them about being woken up and depressed, and how dare they try to rob someone who's barely keeping it together. I was essentially yelling to no one after a couple of seconds because they booked it as soon as I confronted them. The police came, took our statements, asked for our descriptions, and said they'd look around. They never found anyone, probably because I didn't follow the strangers to see how they got into our place. If so, I could have gotten a license plate or something. It didn't occur to me until afterwards that I should have told them the police were coming, or worry that they might have hurt me, and more importantly, my roommate. Looking back, I feel really bad about risking our lives like that. I don't really know what came over me, but I was holding in so much sadness and anger that these people caused me to let it out. Anyway, that's what happened. I learned a lot since then, like having our landlord install locks for our windows, and seeing a therapist. It may have worked out for me, but to anyone reading this, please don't be as stupid as me, especially if there are other people whose lives are at stake. I should have waited outside for the police, or yelled at them through the window, but I didn't. So yeah, if the people who tried to break into our home are reading this, I hope we never encounter each other again, and I assume the feeling is mutual. Hi, I'll get right into it. I, 23 female, and my friend 21 female, went to our hostel in Poland and could not get the door open, even though we had the code. These two men, who claimed that they were also staying there, offered to help us, but we could not get in until someone else came out of the building. At first, these guys were nice and helped us carry our luggage up the stairs to the hostel. Surprisingly, there was no one at the check-in desk, even though the owner specifically asked that we check in at this time. Because we already knew the room that we were supposed to be in, the two guys helped show us to our room, and we all made pleasant introductions. They were 32 and 33, if I remember correctly, and we let them know our age. They left us to get settled, but we realized at this point that without being able to check in, we didn't have keys to enter the building or even lock our door. Now here's where things get weird. We were already feeling a little bit sketched out by the situation, as it was clear that the hostel was just a converted apartment, but that's what you get for $10 a night, I guess. We then hear a brief knock at the door, and without waiting a reply, these two guys come back into our room to talk, I think. The younger one of the two starts talking to us about going out that night and asking more questions about us, and at this point my friend and I are exchanging looks. He mentions that he thinks I'm the one in charge because my friend looks young, and then proceeded to stroke his hand down her cheek. But wait, it gets better. He then reveals to us that he just did some cocaine and proceeded to offer us some, which we both adamantly declined. At this point, we just wanted him out of the room so that we could have a chance to think, and this man did not want to leave. I finally backed him towards the door, but he wouldn't move his body so I could close it all the way, and kept talking to us, even though I was trying to gently shove him out. I finally got the door to close, and then used my body to hold it shut. At this point, my friend had tried to call the owner multiple times, to no avail, so we decided to book another hostel and leave. We waited until we heard the guys leave, and booked it out of there to our new hostel, and are in the process of getting a refund since we booked and paid the fee online. So, creepy hostel men, let's please, never ever, meet again. I've been dating my girlfriend for about 2.5 years. She's a small blonde with a positive attitude about everything. We both go to college, so we only get to see each other so much. Her college is in New Hampshire, and mine is in Massachusetts. Since she doesn't have a car, I'll drive up to her in my old little red car that I got from my grandmother. I'm not a huge fan of that car, but I got it basically for free, so I can't complain. I've never had an issue making this 1.5-hour drive, but a few weeks ago, I got more than my fill. I was visiting my girlfriend, and it already was becoming a rough day. We wanted the dorm room to ourselves, but our bitchy roommate wouldn't leave, so we hung out in the common room. After spending most of the day together, we finally called it time for me to head back to my own college. I said goodbye, and that I would text her when I got back. It was 6 o'clock anyways, and was getting pretty dark outside, given that it was winter. I normally take the New Hampshire back roads for a more scenic route, and also to avoid traffic. It doesn't affect the time of traveling at all either, so that's a plus. Most people who live in or visit New Hampshire know that most of the back roads are not lit well enough with streetlights, or are not even lit at all. This isn't too much of a problem because I can just put on my high beams. About 30 minutes of driving, I turned down a road that looked as if it was just a wide path. The GPS said I would be going straight for about 7 miles, and due to knowing about how New Hampshire roads could be, I didn't think anything of it. The street was like how I mentioned before. It was narrow enough for a car and a half, was surrounded by the woods, and was not lit by the street lights at all. I got about 3 or 4 miles in, and saw a guy in my high beams standing in the middle of the road. He was waving down my car, asking for help. The road wasn't big enough for me to pass around him, so I had to stop. The man then came around to my driver's side window and gestured for me to put it down. I wasn't fully thinking straight, so I put my window down about halfway. He looked like an average 40 to 45-year-old man, but he gave off a disturbing presence. He told me he was having car troubles and asked me to get out of my car and help him. Now, I'm a 19-year-old and have an average build with brown surfer-styled hair. None of my physical qualities hint to me knowing anything about cars. I then told him that I knew nothing about cars and that if he really needed help, that I could call him a mechanic or a tow truck. He kept gesturing to his black rusted pickup truck and insisted that I got out to help him. This started to give me the chills, and I didn't know what to do. That is when I noticed there was someone crouching behind the truck. The man couldn't tell, but I began to internally panic. My fight or flight senses kicked into gear, and I chose to try something risky. I then told the guy that I would pull over on the side of the road up ahead and get out to see what I could help him with. This seemed to work, and the guy began to smile. He backed off of my car, and I stepped as hard as I could on my gas pedal. I sped off and looked in my rearview mirror to see both men run into the middle of the road and just stand there. I kept driving as fast as I could until I got off the road to a nearby gas station, where I stopped to call the police. I told the dispatch my experience and asked if I needed to stick around for questioning. They told me they would send some officers out to check the street, and I was fine to continue on driving. I then called my girlfriend and told her what happened. She was just happy I was safe. I have no idea what those guys' intentions were. I don't know if they were actually having car troubles, or if I was going to get carjacked, or worse. Needless to say, after that night, I will not be driving the back roads alone at night anymore. Hi friends, thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like to hear more from me. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful night. Please take care of yourself and sweet dreams.